Welcome back to the shrine. A little noisy today with all the cicadas going frantic. At the end of the day, it's 2021, year of the Brood 17. We're going to do some serious pimping on the slate. As you can see, it's mostly stock. And what I decided to do is replace the pulleys on the shifter. So you can see there are two pulleys here on the shifter. So one on the bottom, one on the top. And these are 12-tooth pulleys. And they're a little worn. I'm not sure if they have a proper cartridge bearing in them, and I've been looking for replacements. So this is the black edition of the slate, and from the factory it came with these purple crank arms, okay, purple hubs. You can see the purple hubs front, and then this cap here is red, so it's not purple. But a lot of other components are done in purple. Also, this spacer here in the shaft is purple. So what I did is I ordered these pulleys from AliExpress, and they come in different colors and different tooth numbers. The first two I ordered was 11 teeth and 13 teeth, and then later I found another manufacturer that does 12 tooth. These are Meroka brand. So despite that I ordered the purple from all of them, for example this one came in pink. Okay, so we can do a comparison, and you can see that it's a different color. So the crank arm is purple, and this is more like pinkish color. Here's the 12 tooth, and you can see that the crank arm is purple, and this is more like a purple color. The bike to the shade, and again just comparing. So purple, purple. This is a 12 tooth. Here's the 11 tooth. You can see this purple, and this is more like a pinkish color. Here's the 13 tooth, and you can see it's a nice purple color, and it matches perfectly with the crank arm. So I took all of them out of the bag and put them side by side, and you can see the color difference. I'm not sure what happened with the 11 teeth, but it's definitely not purple, it's pink. Now it might be a possibility that they mixed it up when they were shipping it. The package comes like this, and it doesn't have anything on it, any kind of note or description as far as for the color. So I'm guessing that whoever packaged this looked at the color and decided that's purple enough, at least it's not blue, and threw it in a package. So the manufacturer is Meroka, and there's a branding here on these caps. It's made of aluminum 7075, and it says it's a CNC machine, 13 teeth, and then 6mm diameter. The bike is female. I think in the English language, anything that you ride or ride in or ride on is of a female gender. And because of this fact, it's It's not going to tell you if something is wrong. You got to listen, you got to understand what it's saying. So if you listen carefully, I'm going to put my microphone here. You can hear the chain kind of rattling. Most of the times it happens because the chain stretches. Even if you do your best to lubricate it and clean it, the chain is going to stretch over time. And so what we're going to do is we're going to replace the pulleys, but in the same time we also are going to replace the chain. I have a simple tool. This is a Whipperman brand. It's a chain stretch meter, and the way it works is you got to open the legs like that and then put it inside the chain like so. And then you can see if the chain is stretched. Now you can see clearly here that there's a gap between the center of the tool and the chain itself. So let's measure it at the top here. So if I'm measuring at the top, you can see that it engages this chain link. It also engages this chain link here, and it's almost touching in the center. So I think the chain is still good. I'm just going to leave it on, and I'm going to go forward and replace the pulleys. Okay, first of all, what we're going to do is remove the chain from the chain ring, and that gives us a lot more latitude here. Okay, so because the chain is loose now, we'll have a lot better access to the pulley in the back here. The next step is we're going to use a 3mm Allen wrench and loosen and remove the bolts that attach the pulley to the cage. So here's one of them, completely removed. You can see the bolt has thread locker on it. Okay, that blue material there is a thread locker. It's supposed to prevent the bolt from coming out and loosening. So in order to remove the top pulley, you can drag and pull on this, and then there's a button here. This is a SRAM cage, so there's a button, and you can go and push that button in and it will lock the cage in this position. So the next thing is use the small end of the wrench to loosen it, and then use the long end to remove the bolt. Okay, so now the bolt is removed. You can see how dirty it is. There's a washer on either side of the pulley. So there's a washer on the far side, you can see here, and there's a washer on the near side here. You can see it was just captured by the bolt. A couple things I want to point out. These are the old pulleys, and as you can see, the teeth on the pulleys is staggered. So we got a thick one and then we have a thin one. The thick ones are 3.7 and then the thin ones are about 2 millimeters. So you can see it's staggered. There's a thick and there's a thin. Now the thing is, I can only use an even number of teeth because The front chain ring and the chain is the SRAM type, the XX1, I believe, and it's got a staggered teeth. Lost audio at this point, so you can see that the chain is staggered. I'm using this PC 1170 chain. This is what I would use to replace the current one, at least. And you can see that it has a narrow link and a wide link. So if you have an odd number of teeth, it's not gonna engage properly, or the pulley on the odd number of teeth, like this 13, has to be thin so that it engages both the thin and the thick. So you can see this 13 tooth and 11 tooth is the same thickness, so each tooth is the same thickness. So you can see that teeth is 2.1, then this one is about 2 millimeters thick. So each of the teeth, so it's not alternating. So in the package you can see that we have an alternating teeth. So there's a thin one and there's a thick one. Again, a thin and a thick. So because it's odd number, you know, it's gonna work out properly. So the thickness here is 362, which is pretty much the same as the plastic, and then the thin one is about 1.9. So again, it's almost the same as the thin one. So here you can see that the pulley matches nicely with the chain, and it does not wobble. It's kind of made for it. If I rotate it for one teeth, you can see it does not go in because of the alternating tooth pattern. Also on the chain ring you can see there's a thick and there's a thin tooth. So this is supposed to prevent the chain from coming off in a radial direction. So you can see that the chain ring has a 44 teeth, which is an even number. So here's a package that is unopened. I'm gonna open it. You can see this is just packaging material. There's no description or instructions printed on it. In a plastic bag, a pulley and an extra spacer. So the label says 6 millimeter diameter, but the actual spacer that is installed inside is a 5 millimeter size, and then the extra spacer, I believe, is 4 millimeter. So here you can see that the included spacer engages properly with the 5 millimeter screw. It's kind of made for that. And then the hole inside is probably 6 millimeter. So the spacer bore is 5 millimeter size, and then the extra spacer that was included in the package, you can see, is 4.1 millimeter. So this pulley can be used for several different configurations. You can see that the original one has a cartridge bearing which has a double rubber seal on both sides, so it's not just a metal shield but it's an actual rubber seal, and you can see it has to prevent all that shmoo and dirt from being ingested by the bearing. So let's grab the most dangerous tool in a workshop and pop this cover off and look inside, see how it's constructed. So you can see the cover pops off. It has an extra lip that engages that bearing inside race, and the bearing is of a special construction. what we call in the industry, it's a hybrid bearing. The raceways are made out of chromium steel, which is typical bearing steel, about 20% chromium content, and then the rolling elements are most likely some type of ceramic. The cage is made out of plastic. There is no grease, no lubrication in it, and there is no shielding. So the only shielding that's done is by this aluminum cover that I popped off. If there is any dirt or water ingestion, it will probably go inside the bearing. So I will closely monitor it, and every once in a while take the chain off and see how it spins and listen to the sound in the future. But I'm thinking I might just replace this bearing in the future with the other sealed bearing. So I'm gonna reinstall the cap at this point and spin it. Unfortunately, the original sound is missing, but it's working really like a fidget spinner, and it will spin for about 10-15 seconds. I'm just gonna use some denatured alcohol here and some rag to wipe down some of the cage parts, remove the larger pieces of debris and clean it up a little bit, make it more aesthetically pleasing. The same with the one on the shifter or derailleur, if you please. So you can see here that the two bolts are of different size. Also, one has a red thread locker and the other one has a blue thread locker. I wish I could hold these in my hand without dropping them. Here's it again. So red thread locker and blue thread locker. And some of you might know that the red thread locker is kind of permanent type. So if you put it on something, you need a 20-ton press to take it apart. And then the blue thread locker is removable, typically removable. So here's the size. The red measures around 12.9 millimeter. And then the blue measures around 14.4 millimeters. So you can see there's a slight difference in length between them. If you didn't mark them, one clue is that if you look at this cage, you can see that two holes are not made equally. So that's how the cage is installed. You can see that lower part, that lower lip engages, so this lower lip engages that plate right there. So on the top side you can see there's like a protrusion that protrudes out of the surface, so it makes the thread engagement deeper for that specific fastener. And so that means that the shorter fastener most likely is being installed at the top. Again, the shorter fastener was the one with the red thread locker. So here's some Permatex blue thread locker. That's what I have in the shop. That's what I'm gonna use. Again, it's the removable type. I'm just gonna put a big dab on one of the screws and then take the other screw and then basically transfer half of the thread locker like such. So this way I got enough thread locker on both of the screws. So the next thing is I'm gonna install the bolt and the pulley. And now I can install the cage and use a 3mm Allen wrench to drive in the screw and just snug it up a little bit. Okay, so the top one has the short screw again, the one that had the red thread locker on it. So you gotta make sure in this case that the chain is inside of this band, so it's not outside. And then the next pulley can be installed. Just make sure that the teeth will mesh with the chain, and then just use the same procedure. So at this point the chain can be reinstalled on the large chain ring. Okay, and you can see the chain is still loose because the pin that we engaged. So if you move the cage forward, that pin is gonna pop out. This is when it says pop, and then once you let it go, everything will go back its normal position. So at this point you can double check the motion, and if everything is right, you can go ahead and tighten these bolts. So you can see the way I'm holding the wrench. So I'm not holding the wrench at the end position, because in that case I might apply too much torque and I might strip the threads. This is steel bolt into aluminum frame with only a couple thread engagement. So what I do instead is I hold that wrench about an inch from the end. So now it's done. You can see if I spin the pulley, it will just free spin, so it's not locking up. So tightening the bolt that did not lock it up. It doesn't wobble, and same thing with the bottom one. If I spin it, it will just free spin. Everything seems to work alright. This is the point where I remove my microphone and put it close, but that microphone was dead by 15 minutes at this point, so you can't really hear anything from how quiet it runs. It's also aesthetically more pleasing having those purple pulleys on the shifter. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up, and if you like the channel, please subscribe. See you next time. Bye.